There was a young man who was sweeping the floor in one of the big hotels, and this young man was ambitious. He was just getting done with high school. He had good grades. He was trying to work his way up in the hotel business, but he was tired of just sweeping the floors. So he started talking to people in the front office. He said, "How can I get a better job?" They said, "Well, if you want a better job, go talk to Mr. Williams. He was the personnel director." The personnel director told him, "You're a good worker. You're ambitious. I see that look in your eye. I know you want more than what you've got. Why don't you come up and visit me in my office about 4 o'clock on Saturday morning? I think I have something that will help you." So this young man set his alarm clock for 4 o'clock, got up, went up to the personnel director's office, knocked on the door. The director opened the door and said, "Come on in." This young man came in and he said, "Mr. Williams, I'm here to see you." He said, "Have a seat." And the personnel director said, "I really appreciate you coming in early on a Saturday morning. Most people would not be willing to do that. It tells me something about you. You're willing to sacrifice. You're willing to give up your time. You're willing to give up your sleep for a greater purpose." And this young man thought to himself, "This guy's reading my mind. He knows exactly what I'm thinking." The personnel director handed him a key. He said, "Here's the key to the men's room. I want you to take this and go down and clean the men's room." And so this young man went down and he cleaned the men's room. He scrubbed the toilets. He cleaned the sinks. He made it sparkle. He did such a good job that the head chef came by, the maitre d', even the night manager came by, and they were all impressed because this young man took such pride in his work. Well, the next Saturday he came in at 4 o'clock. The personnel director greeted him. Again, he said, "I appreciate you coming in." Most people wouldn't be willing to do that. He handed him another key. He said, "I want you to take this key and go down and clean the women's room." So this young man went down and he cleaned the women's room. He made it sparkle. He did such a good job that the director of housekeeping came by and she was so impressed that she said, "I want you to work for me." And this young man went to work for the housekeeping department, eventually became a supervisor in the housekeeping department. But every once in a while, when things weren't going too well, he would remember the words of that personnel director. The sacrifice, the work ethic, the discipline that it took to clean those restrooms at 4 in the morning. There's a principle in this story that I want to share with you. Are you ready? Here it is. Sometimes in life, in order to rise to the top, you gotta start at the bottom. You gotta be willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. You gotta be willing to make the sacrifices that other people aren't willing to make. Now listen, if you want to rise to the top, if you want to be the best, if you want to be an overachiever, then you gotta start at the bottom. You got to be willing to go in the men's room and clean the toilets at 4 o'clock in the morning. You gotta be willing to do the dishes, the laundry, sweep the floors, take out the trash. There are some people that say, "I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that." If you want to be the best, you gotta do what other people aren't willing to do. You gotta be willing to pay the price. There is no success without sacrifice. There is no victory without a struggle. You want to rise to the top? Start at the bottom and work your way up. Be like that young man. Be willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. By the way, I want to encourage you to live a life of joy. God didn't call us to live a life of misery, a life of defeat. He called us to live a life of joy, a life of victory. In order to do that, we're gonna have to start at the bottom sometimes and work our way up. Are you ready to do that? Let me hear you say, "I am, I am. I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am."